Are we going?
You're rolling.
Are we on?
You're on.
The way that they tell us, like, it's just like, yeah, you're on.
You're live.
Yeah, this is what it is. This is production these days.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Laura.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, I'm right. We're going to do PMQs, but right now, Hilary Benn is still doing Northern Ireland questions in the chamber, so he'll probably be about 5 or so minutes before Keir arrives and Kemi Badenoch. You just dropped a huge bomb on me before this all began. You didn't know who Lost Prophets were?
I've never heard of them. Never. And then that story over the weekend was insane. But one song, don't know.
But that's like your first introduction.
Yeah.
To Ian Watkins was
Yeah.
like this weekend when he was.
Yep. I've been watching all the TikToks about explaining who he was, and it's insane.
Yeah. That is, I mean, oh really?
Yeah.
You didn't even like see it on like the news. You found out about Ian Watkins on Twitter.
Yeah.
That's mad. That is absolutely insane. Also, we're going to be joined by Elliot Steel, who is a comedian and a very funny one at that as well. So we're going to watch the first 10 minutes of Prime Minister's questions. So we're going to watch Kemi Badenoch and Keir Starmer going at each other, and then we're going to chat about what we just saw. Hopefully it's more interesting than it normally is. What's she going to go off today, Laura? What's she going to talk about?
Well, I assume it's going to be... Well, first, PMQs back post-conference. I assume it's going to be about the story that was in Sky where the Chancellor said that she can't really rule out cuts or spending cuts or tax rises. So I assume it might be on that, and then also this China spy scandal. So
that was the Chancellor this morning speaking to Sam Coates on the way to the airport, where she said that tax rises were categorically on the table. Well, yeah, I just want to know for who, that's all.
Yeah.
I think that's the sort of more pertinent question, right?
Of course, because they said it wasn't going to be on working people, and they ruled out income tax, VAT and employee national insurance.
Well, they can't raise employee national... Well, they could actually. They could have raised the national insurance, couldn't they, on the employee rather than the employer, just to make it even kilter. I think the obvious one is probably going to be capital gains, right? There's been a lot of push to raise that in line with income tax, but highly unlikely that she will do that because a lot of the donors to the Labour Party are now big businesses, and big businesses tend to store their cash in capital gains.
Although it feels like there's really very few other levers left to pull, so she might just have to make some enemies.
I mean, it would be all right, wouldn't it? Oh, look, Keir Starmer's just sat down. There he is. Looking very well today, Sir Keir. Kemi Badenoch sat down as well. God, she's had a real tough time of it, hasn't she? We're going to get into this actually with Elliot Steel after Prime Minister's questions, but there's some new reform polling that is it's rather interesting. So we'll reveal all of that in a moment, and we'll also talk to you about your party and what on earth is going on with your party. You were actually there, weren't you? Just, a week ago?
Yeah.
You went to the launch in Liverpool. What did you make of it?
Yeah, on Friday last week. It was interesting. It was a packed out hall. I'd say there was close to 500 people there.
Is that it?
Yeah.
I thought there'd be more than that. I was ticketed though, wasn't it?
Yes, it was ticketed.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people there were very keen to hear what Sarah and Jeremy had to say, but I did feel like it was very much preaching to the choir, and I'm not sure how much appeal their message has to anyone beyond the people who were sitting in that room.
In what sense? Do you mean like the people who feel a little bit disenchanted by your party at the moment, or do you mean the sort of wider public?
I mean the wider public.
Really?
But then also people who maybe would have been 2019 Labour voters. I don't think the Your Party message will cut through with them. I think that those people might be looking slightly more at Zach Plansky, and the Green Party's message is perhaps a bit more palatable for a wider audience.
I mean, he's really knocking it out the park at the moment, isn't he? Especially in terms of messaging.
Yeah, I mean, there was like an interest. I actually asked Jeremy Corbyn about this, because Jeremy Corbyn said that the Green Party weren't a socialist party, but I think if you actually look at the policies that the Green Party are putting forward, especially on things like wealth tax and their approach towards nationalising certain industries, then it actually does feel quite socialist. And Zach Plansky himself was asked about this: is the Green Party a socialist party, pursues socialist policies? And he said yes. He says she just doesn't use that language because it doesn't garner a mass appeal. And I think that is something that your party is perhaps missing, and didn't really seem to want to engage with this, we're going to cast a wide net, try and catch a wider audience?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that the problem that the Greens will have in future. So Zach Polanski is doing a tremendous job across media. I think that his messaging is consistent. I think that he has cut through in a way that a Green Party candidate hasn't in probably since the days of Caroline Lucas. But you know, when she first came into the Commons, and she was quite a spectacle. But or to be looked at, do you know what I mean? So spectacle sounds pejorative. That's not what I mean. However, the problem that you've got is convincing the rest of the Green Party to follow suit. So his two deputy leaders are definitely on message. They are, you know, on track with him. But if you look at people like Adrian Ramsey, who is actually one of their elected members of Parliament, his message couldn't really be further from what they are pushing. And specifically, if you look back to during the leadership contest, what Adrian Ramsey was arguing for was a totally different approach to politics to Polanski. And actually, he was saying that a lot of his ideas were pie in the sky.
I think
we're going to go. Here we go. Keir Starmer standing up. How are we doing, Ben? Are we switching over?
Much loved across the House, kind and generous, and I know it was a huge loss to many members opposite. May he rest in peace. As we remember Sir David and our friend Jo Cox, of course, I want to take this opportunity to condemn unequivocally the death threats made against the Honourable Member for Clacton. I know the House will welcome the justice that has been done. Whatever our disagreements, we are all parliamentarians, and I won't stand for violence or threats against our democracy. Mr. Speaker, on that point, may I update the House on the China spy case? I'm deeply disappointed by the outcome. We wanted to see prosecutions. Mr. Speaker, I know just how seriously, rightly, that you take these matters. National security will always be the first priority of this government, and we will always defend against espionage. In recent weeks, there have been baseless accusations put about by the party opposite. Let me set out the facts. The relevant period was when these offences took place. That was under the Conservative government between the years of 2021 and 2023. This period was bookended by the integrated review of 2021, the beginning of the period, and the refresh of that review in 2023, setting out their policy. These statements of government policy were very carefully worded to not describe China as an enemy. Instead.
Sorry, Mr. Stewart. Somebody who is on the Speaker's panel, I've told once before, should know better. Do not question my judgment. I thought it was important that the Prime Minister tells this House first rather than somewhere else. So please, this is very important to me and very important to the House. I take it seriously, so I don't need any more side comments. Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The review of 21 and the refresh of 23 were very carefully worded to not describe China as an enemy. Instead, they stated increased national security protections where China poses a threat, and that the then government would engage with China to leave room open for constructive and predictable relations. The Deputy National Security Advisor, Matt Collins, set out the then government's position in a substantive witness statement in 2023, which was subsequently supplemented by two further short statements. The Cabinet Secretary assures me that the DSNA faithfully set out the policy of the then Tory government. I know firsthand that the DSNA is a civil servant of the utmost integrity, and those opposite who worked with him, I'm sure, would agree with that assessment. Under this government, no minister or special advisor played any role in the provision of evidence. I can't say what the position was of the previous government in relation to the involvement of ministers or special advisors. If the Leader of the Opposition knows the answer to that question, and I suspect that she does, I invite her to update the House. Last night, the Crown Prosecution Service clarified that, in their view, the decision whether to publish the witness statements of the DSNA is for the government. I have therefore carefully considered this question this morning. and after legal advice, I have decided to publish the witness statement. Given the information contained, we will conduct a short process, but I want to make clear I intend to publish the witness statements in full. Let me say this. To be clear, had the Conservatives been quicker in updating our legislation, a review that started in 2015, these individuals could have been prosecuted and we would not be where we are now. I'm happy to answer any questions on this. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week I visited Rayner, a world-leading provider of cataract solutions based in Worthing, a winner of this year's King's Award for Enterprise Innovation and a fantastic employer of local apprentices. So can I welcome the government's ambition to get 2/3 of our young people into an apprenticeship, further education or university, and ask the Prime Minister what he will do to ensure that every young person in East Worthing and Shoreham has the skills they need to thrive?
Thank you for this question. We want a country where young people are supported, where the quality of teaching is raised and every skilled apprentice is valued and respected. We've set a new target of 2/3 of young people to be in apprenticeships or university. That will smash the glass ceiling and renew our country. Mr. Speaker, we've supported this with record £3 billion budget for more apprenticeships, more technical colleges and guaranteed training, apprenticeship or work for all 18 to 21-year-olds.
The Opposition Kemi Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for marking 4 years since the terrible murder of Sir David Amess. I know that the whole House will want to join me in remembering our former colleague. He is very much still in our hearts and minds. The way he died reminds us that the security of members and this Parliament is paramount. So it concerns us all that the case against 2 people spying on members of this House has collapsed. It is simply unbelievable. Exactly as I expected, the Prime Minister had to be dragged out at the top of PMQs to give a statement that answers no questions. I don't know what they're laughing. I don't know what they're laughing at. We are talking about the security of this Parliament. He had to be dragged out to repeat only more obfuscation. It is simply unbelievable. It is simply unbelievable that he is trying to say the last government did not classify China as a threat. So I will refresh his memory. In 2021, the previous government's integrated review described China as the biggest state-based threat to the UK's economic security. In 2024, the Minister for Security said from that dispatch box that China poses a threat. But let's leave aside the government. In 2022, the Director General of MI5 in November classified China as a threat in his remarks. How is it possible that the government failed to provide the evidence that the CPS needed to prosecute?
The substantive evidence was provided in 2023 by the previous government. That is when the witness statement was submitted. I am going to disclose it. They will all be able to read it. The substantive evidence was written and disclosed and submitted in 2023 under the last government. I noticed she didn't indicate whether ministers were involved in that at the time. Mr. Speaker, she questions what's in the review, the refreshed review in 2021 and 2023. Let me be clear. The then Foreign Secretary, sitting, I think, over here, the Honourable Member for Braintree, 1 month after the arrest, so absolutely the relevant time, gave a speech at Mansion House. It was called Our Position on China, setting out the government's policy. He said in that speech, summing up China as a threat in one word would be, his words, impossible, impractical and, most importantly, unwise. Foreign Secretary, Mr. Speaker, it wasn't just him. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition was business secretary at the time. In September 23, the leader of the opposition said, her words, September 23, the relevant year, her words, "We should certainly not be describing China as a foe." It's worth looking up the word foe in the dictionary, Mr. Speaker. She went, Mr. Speaker, it doesn't end there, Mr. Speaker. In September 2024, the leader of the opposition said this, I quote, "I have shied away from calling China a threat." She is playing politics with national security.
The Prime Minister can read the beginning of a quote. Let me finish that quote. At the end of that quote that he just read out, I did describe China as a threat. But this whataboutery that he is doing neglects the fact that those spies were charged under a Conservative government. They were let off under Labour. He has not answered any questions. On Monday, Mr. Speaker, on Monday, the Security Minister repeatedly told the House that ministers did not take decisions, that it was the Deputy National Security Advisor who had full freedom. Is the government seriously saying that only one man, the Deputy National Security Advisor, had anything to do with this failure? Is he seriously saying that the Deputy did not discuss with the National Security Advisor, did not discuss with the Home Secretary or with anyone in Downing Street? Is the Prime Minister seriously saying that?
Yes. Mr. Speaker, let me explain why. Firstly, the case was charged under the last government according to the evidence submitted under the last government, which set out their policy decision. What was an issue in the trial is not the position of the current government, the position of the last government. And they carefully avoided describing China as an enemy because that was their policy at the time. Mr. Speaker, so far as the position under this government is concerned, no minister or special advisor was involved, and I will double-check this because I've had it. I will double-check this. So, Mr. Speaker, this is important. After the charging decision, the prosecution were very careful about who would then see the witness evidence. I will double-check, Mr. Speaker, exactly what instruction was taken. But I can be absolutely clear: no minister was involved. No special advisor was involved in this, and I'm assured as I can be that the prosecution was saying that it would be the witnesses only that were involved in short updates to the evidence that was submitted under the last government.
That's not good enough. Kemi Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, the end of the answer was different from the beginning of the answer. What on earth is the point of us having a lawyer rather than a leader as the Prime Minister if he can't even get the law right on a matter of national security? He keeps going to the CPS. The CPS have said that they are satisfied that they were right to charge in August 2024. The Sunday Times reported that Jonathan Powell, the Prime Minister's national security advisor, convened a secret meeting to discuss the security consequences of the China spy trial. Did the meeting happen, or is the Sunday Times making it up?
Mr. Speaker, she's clearly not a lawyer or a leader. Mr. Speaker. The problem for her is I do actually understand the law. I know what's got to be proven. I've also looked at the evidence. That was put in under the last government in relation to this case. There was a meeting in September. That did not involve the National Security Advisor discussing the evidence in any way, nor, Mr. Speaker, one further piece of evidence. The final statement in this case was submitted in August 2025. There was no further submission of evidence, one way or the other, after any discussion in September. This is a red herring, a completely scurrilous allegation made by the Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has now twice directly contradicted the words of his Security Minister. They cannot both be right. The chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee couldn't get any answers from the Security Minister. The CPS said that they were satisfied that the decision to charge the case in April 2024, not August, in April 2024 was correct on the basis of where the law stood at that time. This is a matter of fact. It is not a matter of what the previous government had thought. It is not a matter of it not meeting a legal test. It did. Something must have changed when the charges were brought and when the case collapsed. The charges were brought under us, the case collapsed under them. Can the Prime Minister tell us what changed and what collapsed the case?
Mr. Speaker, I've said I will publish the witness statements in full. The whole House will then see exactly what was set out in 2023 in the substantive witness statement and exactly what was set out in the 2 supplementary witness statements, and she will then realise what she's just said is entirely baseless.
Kemi Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, the CPS has said in the clearest terms that this prosecution was dropped because this government did not provide the statement they expected. Why should we believe a man who at the last Prime Minister's questions said he had full confidence in the best friend of a convicted paedophile? Forgive us if we don't trust a word he says. This all stinks of a cover-up. Given his statement earlier, will the Prime Minister publish today not just the government witness statements, but also the meeting minutes and all of the correspondence that he had with the CPS?
Mr. Speaker, let me be clear. The only process I want to go through is in relation to some of the individuals in the statements to make sure they know it's coming out. I can assure the House there's no substantive delay here. I know it is of concern to a number of people, acute of concern to them. I will have the statements out in full. There is a bit of proper process I need to go through. The honourable member will understand why that's necessary. Then they'll be published in full. She asks about minutes, etc. There is a usual rules and process for government. But I remind her that the substantive issues in this case were discussed at meetings under the previous government. So they're asking me to disclose the discussions that they had in relation to the witness statement in the first place.
Kemi Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, you deserve better, and this House deserves better than the evasive answers that we have had from the Prime Minister. Even the former Cabinet Secretary, Lord Butler, has accused the government of being economical with the truth on this issue. The Prime Minister can't tell us why Jonathan Powell had a secret meeting which the Security Minister said he had no involvement in the case. He can't tell us why his government did not provide evidence that China was a threat. I suspect those statements won't prove it either. He's blaming his civil servants. He's blaming the media. He's blaming the last government. He cannot explain why he could not see this case through. He should have seen this case through. And let me be clear, Mr. Speaker, about what has happened. A serious case involving national security has collapsed because this government is too weak to stand up to China. And if the Prime Minister cannot protect the members of this House, what does that say about his ability to protect this country?
The case did not proceed because the policy of the past government did not meet the test that was necessary. That is the long and the short of it. Far from evading, I have said I will disclose the full witness statements that set out exactly what was in the witness statements, exactly what the subsequent statement says, and the allegation that somehow they were changed, that the first statement and the second statements are different, is completely and utterly unfounded. Mr. Speaker, it's a pathetic spectacle. Instead of taking responsibility for the fact they failed to update the law so this case could actually be the review, Mr. Speaker, 2015 was the review into legislation. They took 8 years to change the law. Had they done that more quickly, this case would have proceeded. It was their failure, and they're just slinging mud. Meanwhile, we're getting on, Mr. Speaker, with renewing our country, new planning reforms, online hospitals for waiting lists, new opportunities for young people. Labour's building a better future. They can't even come to terms with their past.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Derby is a city on the up, but unfortunately this last year we've been devastated by knife crime. Nasty.
Do you know, I actually stopped listening. I thought that was really dull. That was Kemi Badenoch there challenging Keir Starmer over the collapsed trial of 2 alleged Chinese spies. The trial allegedly collapsed, or the trial did collapse because the UK or Britain had not designated China a threat officially to the United Kingdom.
And I think that what we just watched was a lot of finger pointing between, well, you didn't call it a threat, and then Kemi Badenoch going back to Keir Starmer, well, you never called it a threat.
I just, you could really tell she was caught out there at the beginning because she was desperate to do the 6 lines of questioning to him about China, and he gave that statement at the beginning, and you could even see the disappointment in her eyes, right, when she said, I knew you were going to give a statement at the beginning. Oh God, it's just so Westminstery and boring. But Elliot Steel,
hello,
did you enjoy that?
Yeah, it was amazing. I've never seen spy drama be made so boring in all my life. You always think Spies is going to be like a James Bond film, and it's not. It's just a load of posh people going, yeah, and then you're like, oh, I thought it was going to be like Aston Martins and like gunfights and things like that, and it's just like a trial collapsed.
But she is a woman though, isn't she? And she is therefore rather boring. We were going to come out we were going to come out
is that what you got from what I said?
I just heard the words and I summarised them. Yeah.
Let's clip that. That's what I say on it.
We were going to come out and listen to the Liberal Democrats there, but we think we've missed the beginning of Daisy. I'm not sure if she's talking about the China spy case, but she's probably that or Ukraine or Care.
Trump. They love talking about Trump.
They do love talking about Trump. So I guess we'll just put that as a highlight on our YouTube, so you'll be able to go back and watch that if you so wish. Elliot, do you think that these sort of what you've just seen there, do you think the wider public today will be going down the pub to talk about all of that?
No, because it doesn't really affect people's lives in a narrative that they can go down and talk about it. The things that affect people's lives are, the current ongoing wealth inequality, what's going on at work, the football, things like that. These kind of stories don't really...
Well, we do have wealth inequality with most footballers, don't we?
Yeah, but I don't think they're paid enough, actually, for the amount they do for men's mental health. No one, like, this isn't like a scandal that people... It's not sexy enough to be a scandal that people want to go talk about. Like, the wider public, we want, like, affairs... We want, all of that sort of thing. Like, it's like, oh my God, have you seen what they've been doing? Like, there's nothing better in politics than when someone who's like trying to push past like anti-LGBT laws gets caught at like a party with like rent boys or something, and that's when we're like, oh, that's a scandal. Not someone was maybe texting someone in Beijing, and I bet it's not even anything that. By the way, I learned about this story 4 seconds ago, so I don't know. We could have given away like the Trident nuclear codes, and I'm just going like, yeah, whatever. But no, I don't think anyone really cares about it. It's not.
What do you think?
I mean, it feels like a misstep for Kemi Badenoch to use the first PMQs back to use all of her questions on this story, which I think no one outside of like the Westminster, London media bubble really even understands why it's a story, when she could have, like you said, used her 6 questions to go after, the budget.
She could have gone after the budget, or she could have asked a more pertinent question, which I was talking to you both about during that, which is, why did Vodafone crash for 6 hours 2 days ago? That is really throwing me off. If that's got anything to do with these Chinese spies, then that's fine by me. They can keep asking questions about it. But that is very perplexing to me.
The whole country's got to go to giffgaff. That's what's going to happen now. We've all got to move over to giffgaff and do like the sort of pay-as-you-go Sims, because Vodafone can't be bothered to run a decent service.
Well, giffgaff has previously sponsored this podcast, and we maybe that is the way forward. Maybe that is our endorsement. When you talk about wealth inequality there, we're looking ahead to the autumn budget. In that autumn budget, it's expected that the Chancellor Rachel Reeves will announce new tax rises. Do you think that the British public will be happy about new tax rises?
No, the British public are never happy about anything. We're never happy about anything. If anything that happens, we have to attack it, because our the way we work is just like, we just look at the government going, oh, you're doing a thing. We don't like the thing. Just let us live our lives. Even if the government goes like, hey, no, this is a thing to help you. We go like, we don't want that. Why are you trying to help us? And that's always, our sentiment is to just go. We have such a distrust of politicians in this country, which definitely wasn't helped by COVID, where now everyone who is a politician is just sort of seen, unless you're seen as quite a a fringe figure like Nigel Farage or someone like that, then you're seen as a bit more like, oh, you're trying to help people. Even like the same with like weirdly Corbyn and him are in that sort of same space, just to the different sides, where like what they do is seem to help people. But anyone who's on the two main parties, it's just seen as the same old story, I think.
I do actually really want to ask you more about Farage. I'm going to talk to you as well about your party, because you've just been covering that last week. But while we're on the subject of wealth inequality, this is a real tangent, but I was watching a video from the band Garbage this morning. I don't know if you know them, but they've been touring for 30 years, and they basically told a crowd in Denver last night that they wouldn't be able to tour anymore because they simply can't afford to do it. They can't afford to travel, they can't afford to pay Ticketmaster, they can't afford to do to pay their accountants. It's so expensive. I was just wondering, I should probably check this with you before, because if you say no, you're absolutely fine, then that's going to destroy this whole setup. But what's it like to be a comedian? What's it like to be a live performer? Do you find it more difficult as the cost of living crisis has gotten more entrenched?
Yeah, right. So what happened in comedy and sort of in the wider art scene is it made everything more regional.
Okay.
So I will go and play Top Secret or like 99 Club or the Comedy Store and gigs around London, and kind of like go, unless I'm going away for a tour or like gigs that pay a little bit higher or cover my hotels, I'm not really going to go to other places. And the same things happened up and down the country. So there's like, because the comedy scene's thriving and there's so many good comedians out there, Glasgow has a great scene. Liverpool in the Northwest, you know, the guys at Hot Water run a really good scene up there. So I
just went there. I loved it.
It's great. And they've got a whole like market, and the acts are amazing and stuff. And so everyone kind of goes, hold on, why am I going to go down to like, for example, Exeter for this amount of money, which when my train fare comes in, my comm comes in, the amount of time I've done there, like, you kind of gone there for 80 quid. Whereas I could, even if you go like, I'll take a less better paying gig in London, but I'll make more money and then I get to go home.
Yeah.
Rather than, because, you know, being on the road, it does. I know there's people out there with like real jobs. There's guys currently tarmacking places, and I'm going to be like, I had to sit on a train and go get a Nando's on my own. But the sort of wealth inequality thing, because, you know, the train companies are extortionately high, it does screw over, you know, I think anyone who's like more traditionally working class coming into an arts field now has so much more of a struggle, because, and it's going to affect the scene, because they're not going to go to the places that you kind of need to go as well to get good. Mm-hmm. Like the way you get really good in stand-up is you kind of do 10 years going to the arse end of nowhere and having to go like, hey, here's my life, I'm going to try and make you guys laugh, and that teaches you something. Whereas now, that's not happening as much.
Well, it also, I suppose it would mean unless you're born or your parents live in an area that has a thriving comedy scene, then you're probably not. I mean, I don't know. Look, I'm just going to hypothesize. It's probably like journalism, where when you first start out, you don't make any money at all.
Yeah.
And so it's quite beneficial if you can live at your parents' house while you're doing the free work at the beginning. So if you don't live in Glasgow, Liverpool, Manchester or London, you're not going to be able to access the scene. Yeah,
for sure. And as well, that but the one thing that has changed it all now is because of the use of social media.
Right.
But you can kind of like bypass the circuit, which actually I think is going to have a worse effect in the long run for the standard of comedy, because you're going to have people who haven't done the years on the road who are suddenly doing like tours and stuff, and they might not have had the you know, because the way it used to work was you go up to Edinburgh, but Edinburgh was so extortionate, and you kind of like set up your shop and hope producers come and like you and enjoy it. But they've also, like, the wealth inequality in that is crazy. And, you know, I come from a very privileged position where I was able to, you know, I have ins with the industry, I have all this stuff, and I still have never made money at the Fringe. And I come from like a really privileged position. So how anyone who, you know, doesn't have a dad who's a Radio 4 comic and, you know, is like traditionally working class going to afford to be able to do that, they can't. But they can use social media now and find an audience on there. But they might find that audience also before they're ready for that audience, before they're ready to do an hour on the road and stuff like that, if that makes sense. So then they're going to have like a harder time, like, you know, writing an hour is really hard. Like, it's really difficult. And my first two were terrible. And my third one was
Your first what?
My first hour show I did at Edinburgh, terrible. My second one, even worse.
You told it was terrible, or like, is that like what you think in hindsight? Like,
Hindsight, yeah, it's meant to be terrible.
Someone just come and tell you it's terrible.
The lack of people there every night told me it was the numbers on seat. But then the second one's even harder because the first one you've got like maybe 6 years worth of material you've been building up for it. Then the next year you've got to write a new hour. That took you 6 years. You've now got to do it in a year. So that one was worse. And then by the time I did my third one, which was good, then my fourth one was like getting better. And then like it went on and then you kind of learn how to do it. But that's at like great financial loss. And, you know, just to be able to get like good at spoken word, it's a bit crazy.
Isn't that the fun of it though? Because I feel like I've seen some of the most sort of, I mean, we use the word infamous comedians at the Edinburgh Fringe, sometimes not even filling 2 rows of seats.
Who? Okay, don't name names. But yeah, the Fringe is a weird one. It's.
But then they become, you know, then I would go like a year after, and they would pack the room out.
Yeah, there's kind of at the Fringe, there's kind of a lot of things happening. So you've got people selling from social media, and then you've got people selling because they're like the buzz thing that year they've picked up. You've got people selling because of reviews. But the Fringe is its own little bubble that, like, when the television and sort of produced side of it grabs something, that really doesn't matter anymore. Like, nobody watches television. It's this is what people watch. They don't go and sit down and wait for a show to come on. The panel show thing's been done for years. I mean, I'm burning so many bridges doing this.
I feel so sad about that though, because I really like the panel show format. I miss it. Laura, were you even alive when they were doing panel shows?
I mean, I remember watching Mock the Week, like, with my parents, when it was like, you can stay up late.
but was that the Frankie Boyle, Russell Howard era?
Yes,
yeah. So that was really good because they actually covered good stories, and it was like, it was still produced, but it was like, you know, they would be scathing about like the Iraq war, and they would be scathing about politicians, whereas now they kind of had to like, sanitize it, yeah, that to make it a bit more, you know, hey, this is fun, it's shit, because they sanitize it down, and then anyone who would be good and scathing, because, you know, if you do satire, you got to go for the jugular. It's got to be brutal. That's why when Spit and Image came back, it didn't work. They were a bit nice with it. And like, you even had Boris Johnson come out and be like, yeah, they're not brutal enough. And you're like, the Prime Minister has just come out and said the show that's meant to be brutal isn't brutal enough. Like, you failed. Like, so that whole thing that happened within the world of stand-up here then kind of shifted online, and you have, you know, I'm not going to throw myself in there, but you have really good comics out there doing great things like Mike Rice, Vittorio, you know, people like that doing, like Daniel Sloss, Jamali Maddox, they're out there doing great things. And it all sort of shifted onto that where people could go get it for themselves, which then changed the whole dynamic. But then television's in this constant battle where they then go, not that I've had this, but maybe, but you'll go to like a channel, they'll go, or the channel will come to you, go like, we really like what you do, come do that with a channel budget, and then you send them a script through, and they're like, absolutely not, and you go, this is what this is, like it's got to be this. If you want the people who watch me online to come watch this, it has to be this. And they kind of go like, yeah, we know, but like, we can't.
Is it the commercial responsibilities of it then?
I think it's not even as cool as that. I think it's just they're worried they'll get some tweets.
Really?
Genuinely, yeah.
But why? I get horrible tweets all the time.
I mean, I'm off Twitter now because of my last few clips.
I've got some really cool ones at the moment. There's a guy, basically, there's a guy who's got this bit. This is insane. A guy who's got a bit about me. His sexual fantasy about me is that I would do like a Rachel Dolezal, which, for people who aren't familiar, that she did blackface for years.
But she was like, wasn't she like the head of
like the NAACP?
She like got fought.
And she had like a black husband, and she would talk about him all the time as like, but she would call him her black husband, which is like. I don't. It's a mad thing to do, and then she would always refer to her black children, and all I could think about all the time was like, you're saying this to your children. Do you not think that they find that alienating? And then secondly, like, how are you in a house of these people going and fake tanning every single day and no one's noticed?
Yeah, she like real had like Miss Doubtfire commitment to the bit level of like just going like. But I don't know, like...
We know the process of fake tanning, and honestly, like, it's not easy. You can't just keep topping it up. Honestly, the whole thing has to come off, and it takes ages.
Yeah.
It takes ages.
Oh my God, yeah. So this guy's fantasy for you is that you do that?
Yes. Yeah. And then he just sort of replies to everything. So, like, the other day I was tweeting about, like, Jeremy Corbyn, and he was, like, replying, being like, have you dyed your minge yet?
No.
I just love the idea. You're like, we laid Gran to rest this week. I hope she's...
Yeah. Yeah.
Every tweet. Bro, take a touch.
Yeah. And he calls it, like, my cuff and collar. He wants my cuff and collar matching. And I'm not sure I know what that is. So I rang up sort of like... Well, because I thought maybe that's a Cockney thing, so I rang up my Cockney mother, and she was like, I've never heard of that before.
No.
Cuff and collar?
Cuff I think is going to be muff.
Yeah, well, I would have thought
That's
so, but
gonna
then
be,
but it was the and collar. That's the bit that was throwing me off.
Yeah.
I'll ring her up afterwards. I go, Mum, it was muff.
People are afraid, like channels are afraid of getting tweets. They're afraid of any sort of negative feedback, and they don't really realise and I get it. I get on their end, their producers, like, there's this thing you can do where you come on and you're a comic and you're like, you guys don't get and this, and they're like, no, don't go do that because we have to deal with it. But that's sort of where comedy is at the moment in the sort of mainstream. When you look back at like Frankie Boyle on Mock the Week,
yeah,
it was visceral and it was scathing, and did he miss the mark sometimes? Sure. But that was like the price to pay for actually at times really good satirical comedy, which is one of the great things in this country, I think. And we've kind of lost that a little bit.
But I do think there is also like a people do think about themselves too much thing, because that's got, like with social media, like I think we get asked all the time, like, how do you deal with all the comments? I'm like, I never read all of the comments. Like, I do you do it?
Yeah.
Do you actually?
I used to.
Really?
Oh yeah. I used to find it funny.
Never.
But then it got like, I had 2 clips that went round, because I was always like, fine. I had a clip that went round that like they started posting the clip, and it was like people kind of adjacent to Tommy Robinson.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't want to be in this sphere at all.
Why? Why not?
I think they're a real nasty, angry group of people who are only getting bigger and bigger and bigger because no one is counteracting anything that they're saying. And anytime anything is, the fan base is so hell-bent on a point that, like, even when you go like, hey, this guy's like being arrested for like intimidating that happened, like he turned up to a journalist's house, like, and you go, that's not freedom of speech. And then they go, well, what about this? What about the veterans? And you go, what has that got to do with anything we just said? And when I start going into that sphere, I get a little bit like, I don't want to spend my day, like, I look on my phone and it's just someone sending me something anti-Semitic.
Right.
Yeah, or just telling me, like, you just being like horrible, saying that I should be beaten to death. And that, like, my mates used to go through my comments.
It's never normal.
No.
It's never just like, I didn't really enjoy this piece of art. It was like, it's like...
Oh, the worst ones are when people send things like, when does the comedy start? And it'll be on a clip that's killing. You're like, there's laughs on the clip. And they're like, you just read the subtitles. You didn't click the sound. That's your fault.
When does the comedy start is actually great.
You get it so many times though that you're like, this is like the 50th one today.
Yeah. I like people like to say to me, journalist, like this, and like the journalists.
Sixth form politics.
Yeah.
Sixth form. Wait, no. Okay, Ed Campbell, who's on this podcast, he thought the sixth form politics was a compliment. Do you remember that?
No.
He was like, he goes, oh look, here's a nice one. Oh, they say we do sixth form politics. I was like, okay.
What did he think that meant?
I don't know, but he was really happy about it.
He was thinking about Model UN and his heydays back then.
Yeah.
I had that once when I used to like goalkeep for a team, and someone called me Butterfingers, and I thought that was a compliment. Like, I went home, and Dad was like, I was like, yeah, it was good. They were all calling me Butterfingers, and my dad was like, oh no, no, like, no.
That's really sad.
Yeah.
Laura, we should probably talk about your party.
Yeah.
If anyone's still here for the politics, I don't know if they are.
Yeah.
Anyway, Laura, go on, tell me about your party. You went there last week. What did you think?
Yeah, so I went to their rally in Liverpool, which I guess was kind of the first kind of public outing that Zara and Jeremy have been seen at together, because I was at the Stop Trump Coalition protest a couple of weeks earlier, and Zara and Jeremy were there, but they weren't there together. But at this, they made quite a unified show on stage that they were one and that everything was okay. And I even asked Jeremy about it beforehand. What happened? Why should people trust you after we saw that quite public dispute with legal action threatened? Jeremy said it was just a hiccup and that they've moved past it now.
Isn't that nice?
Yes.
That's so like your friends that break up every week.
Yeah.
And it's so like, he's a monster, I never want to see him. And they're like, no, but like we just say these things to each other.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly feel better, but there was some actually like there was some interesting news that I was following earlier, which is essentially they're trying to put together this like regional assembly, right? They're trying to put together a few meetings. They're trying to put together this conference that's meant to happen in the beginning of November. Doesn't look like it's going to happen now, Laura, does it? It actually looks like they're not quite able to book any of the venues.
I think the whole thing feels, well, because obviously there is no sort of pre-existing party infrastructure like what Zach Plansky's operating with, where he's just trying to change the direction, but kind of all the organisational infrastructure bureaucracy is there. They're trying to do this from the start, but that's what Reform did as well, and they seem to have done it a lot more successfully in terms of just getting numbers and things set up that way. But I think even if you look at the 6 MPs that are in Parliament for your party, that seems totally like that seems kind of incongruous as well, because you have
the MPs for your party in
I'm
Parliament.
not even sure. I do struggle to find what the kind of common thread is between them, and they all seem to want quite different things and have quite different visions of what the party is. And when you hear Zara and Jeremy talk, they're talking about quite different subjects. It doesn't quite sound like they're on the same page about things. And I asked Jeremy Corbyn about the amount of landlord MPs there are, because 4 out of the 6 are landlords, and obviously they're a party that's campaigning on wealth tax and speaking to people who really will be renters or social renters. And I asked if they should be concerned about this, and Jeremy Corbyn said, well, you can't call it a high proportion. And I was like, I think I can. That's 4 out of 6. That's quite a high proportion. But I asked if he would agree with Zara Sultana, because Zara Sultana put this early day motion, or signed this early day motion that's been tabled about banning MPs from being landlords while they sit in Westminster. And Jeremy Corbyn just said, well, that's Zara's view, and disagreed with her on that.
Well, I mean, I don't really know how they're going to get that through with 4 of them being MPs, especially when you've got the Green Party who are now looking to ban, landlords, not MPs. The Green Party are looking to ban landlords. Are you a fan of landlords?
No, not really, but also like if I could do it, I would. That's always that's always the thing, innit? It's like all these people who went and gigged at like the Riyadh Comedy Festival. I'm like, well, if they asked me, I'd have done it, but I didn't. That's why I didn't go.
Was it a big pay packet, you think? Was it?
Huge.
Really?
Huge.
Well, why else would you do it?
Like,
because you love the kingdom.
Yeah, I know people who got I know of people who got
holiday?
insane.
I don't know. I'm
tax free as well.
Yeah, of course. But the thing is, okay, and look, I actually said this when I wasn't live and it wasn't received very well, so I'm going to say it live and it probably won't be received very well. But like, I didn't think it was that bad going to do that, because I was like, well, it does have like abject human rights abuses and we know all about that. But like, I think that you would still go and gig in the US, and you could argue that there are people who are detained on the border there, and there are ICE raids currently, and there are people being, arrested in the middle of the night. I wouldn't really agree with those things.
Yeah, but it's different if you're gigging for the US government than if you're going to drop into the Comedy Cellar, which is just like people going to see a show.
Okay.
It's like this.
Was it actually for the Riyadh?
This is for the Saudi monarchy backed by Mohammed bin Salman. Yeah.
That's why it was. Okay. I did not know that.
You have, as a journalist, just backed the Saudi regime. Hang on, I think they should be allowed.
That
Dave
sounds
Chappelle.
I think we should have the World Cup too.
I didn't really pay attention to it. I've got to be honest. I was reading about the China spy story.
Yeah, well, that's what everyone's talking about, and
I can't get away from it.
But back to like.
Wait, so was it? So it was literally for like the king in this court.
Basically, yeah.
And Dave Chappelle went.
Yeah, I have a view on it that I'm not as like up in arms about it as everyone else. I think like
because you're more financially secure.
No, I would have done it for such a small amount of money. I'd have done it for flights and food. Right. Like I'd have done it for flights and like if you give me like a food token.
Right.
But my thing with it is, hey, look, if you went and did it and you wanted the money, fine, let that be your thing. Like, just, go, hey, my principles, your principles aren't my principles, cool, whatever. Don't come back and do what, like, Omid Jalili's done, which is, like, write a Guardian article about, like, hey, we're on the front, like, making out you're like a suffragette because you went over there and gigged for the, like, you went and did it for the money. Like, that's why you went and did it. Like, just say that. That's cool.
It feels like a couple of comedians there as well have kind of made their names by being like darlings of the liberal left, especially on American TV, and then to go and do this is just kind of, it feels very inauthentic. It was like, well, was that just a character you were playing, this sort of liberal left comedian?
Yeah, there's a few people like Bill Burr and stuff's a bit of a letdown, him going, because his stand-up, I think he's been one of the best stand-ups for a very long time, and then for him to go and start like being like, it's fine, you're like, yeah, but there is like, you've talked about freedom of speech for so long, and you had to go to a place where you had to, it's come out, sign a thing, there were things you can't talk about. That's, that's everything. And look, that actually happens in stand-up a little bit sometimes. Like, you might, like back in the day, if you did uni gigs and stuff, they'd kind of want to go through your material with you, because...
At university?
Yeah, they're a little bit nervous.
Why? What did they not want you to talk about?
There was a university I did years ago, I'm not going to say the university, but... I was doing a charity night there, and I got a call, and they went, hey, can we just go through your set with you? And I was like, well, no. And also because I was like 2 years in, I didn't have a set. I had like 2 jokes. Yeah. And they were like, I was like, all right, that's weird they want to do that. And then when I went down there, I kind of like asked one of the guys organising it. It was really cool. And he was like, basically like... MI5 had to come down a few years ago because we did have like we had like a pro-Palestine thing that went on, and then some people kind of turned it into like a little bit of Death to All Jews. So we had to like be very careful when we put things on.
Oh my God.
And I was like, right. And then he's like, anyway, man, so just do
you have to get rid of your first
Yeah.
I
was just going to chant Death to the idea. No.
Jesus.
No, I wasn't going to do that, by the way. I wasn't going to do a Bob Dylan. But that...
We're going to cut that bit out.
Oh, wait. Are we not
No,
live?
no, the bit where you declined it.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, what do you think about... Let's just sort of caveat here.
Is this live, by the way?
This is live, yeah. I think so. I'm actually not that sure. This is like kind of an experiment, so I'm not actually that sure. But we'll keep going. It's also really bright in here. It's never been this bright in here, ever. I feel like I'm on the sun.
I feel like I'm causing irreparable damage to my...
What have you done?
Like, I've come on this show and I'm just like going like, yeah, I've got this going on with chat, and then I just go, yeah, I was going to chant that at a gig, and then I'm going to come off and I'm just going to have like 18 missed calls from people, and I'm going to be like, man, everyone wants to talk to me today.
Everyone wants to talk to me today. I hate that. I've had that before. But I actually had said something really...
what did you say?
Well, I'm not going to say it. Well, no, I'm going to repeat it now because I think I got away with it. Reform. The Reform Party have put out polling, or a poll has been done of around 8,000 people, just under 8,000 people, that has suggested that they would scoop up 36% of the vote, which means they would have a clear majority. That would be more than Labour's 33%. Is that how they won? That's what they won the last election on? The Reform Party. Do you think we're ready for a Nigel Farage government?
I kind of like follow Gary Economics on this, and I think he's quite spot on with it. I think people don't realise that, like, if the people who are going to vote Reform, who want what Reform are offering, it's populist politics where they say things like Rupert Lowe, is it, who just tweets things where it's like, he's like, we're going to deport 200,000 people, and you're like, Matt, how long is the queue at Gatwick Airport going to be? Like, you can't do that.
You know, he gets paid for that as well. You know, he has to keep declaring it on his like register of interest how much like Elon Musk is paying him.
Yeah, but that's the other thing is, like, this is Twitter. You can make money by just, he'll tweet something like, retweet this if you think this, and then loads of people retweet it, and you're like, he just wanted to make like 300 quid.
Yeah.
That's what politics is becoming now. It's just a quick...
He's making thousands. It's actually insane how much money he's making on there.
But that needs to be the attack against it. Like, he's stirring you up, he's making you angry. He's not going to do these things that he's saying he's going to do, by the way. He's not going to be able to do them. And you're going to vote in Reform. They'll be tougher in certain sections, but they're also going to be like, I guess like any government will be, which will be like, hey, we can't do the things because of, the human rights laws and all of these things. So we've got to tear them up. And when those are torn up, they're just going to sell it off to big business because, they need to get rid of it. They want to get rid of the NHS. They hate the idea that there's, trade unions and they give workers rights. That's what they're going to go for. And then they'll have to do a thing to keep their populist members happy, which is be tougher on immigration and just stir up and stoke these flames and further divide people. And I think that's a really scary time to be living in when you kind of see all of this going on.
But I think at some point it has to burst, right? This is the sort of I think that at some point you're going to get to a point where you cannot say anything that is more extreme than the last thing that you've said, right? Eventually there's going to have to be some kind of action, otherwise people are going to grow tired of the rhetoric. And I think that it's quite obvious that you can't deliver on most of the things that they're promising.
But you guys know about this more than me. How will their fan base accept that? Their fan base.
Yeah.
But they kind of are a fan base, though, to reform, like a Nigel Farage, cult of personality fan base. It doesn't feel quite like a normal electorate party relationship or even a member party relationship. It really does just feel like a cult of personality with fans who want to buy the merch, wear the merchandise, in a way that we don't really see for other parties.
Not too dissimilar from Jeremy Corbyn and the Corbyn mania.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but that's the thing. It's it's both sides. It's you almost want to go both sides do the same thing, and not that I'm centrist, but in a bit of the middle of it, you're going, hey, can we all calm down and remember let's not put politicians as gods and these things and think that this person, they're human beings. Human beings are flawed. I'm flawed. We're all flawed. This person is capable of being flawed. We are all hypocrites. We all do things that, we say one thing, then we get offered a Saudi comedy festival and we go, this is that's the human experience is being flawed. So maybe give that leeway to a politician, but also on the flip side of that, don't hold someone like Farage in this place of he's there for me. It's bro, he's not. He's on the side of big business. He's an old school conservative. He wants to, rip up the NHS. He doesn't like the idea that we have infrastructure that's, it should be a human right in this country that you can, it's a brilliant thing, the NHS. It's a meritocracy. You go there, they look after, when my dad had cancer. It's flawed in a lot of ways, but invest in it and make it better, and then that will make people happier. The reason your life sucks at the minute is because things are falling apart around you because you're living through a late stage bit of capitalism. And I'm not going down with capitalism, replace it with communism, because I also think that's crazy. But just
something like Saudi Arabian style.
I don't know what they do over there, but they're having a good time.
But they've got a lot of oil, haven't they? So I think that helps.
Yeah, so they're building a lot. An indoor ski slope as well.
An indoor ski slope.
That's why but that's what we need. Zach Polanski needs to run on the basis, we're going to have 50 indoor ski slopes, and everyone will be like, man, this guy knows what's up.
Why would you want to go to Riyadh to go skiing?
I mean, I like to think if Scotland was independent with all of its oil money, that's the sort of thing that we'd be doing. Just totally bizarre infrastructure projects.
What, drilling the North Sea?
Yeah.
But the SNP don't want to drill the North Sea, do they?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
I
don't know. Are you a big skier?
No, I've been snowboarding a couple of times at comedy festivals.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not backed by, it was in Austria. It wasn't backed by the Austrian monarchy.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
I can't say I've ever been. Have you been? I bet you have.
Skiing?
Yeah.
Yeah, in Austria.
Yeah,
oh, really?
Yeah, so it is really insane posh people there because everyone just goes up the mountain, gets drunk, and then breaks their legs going down it.
Really?
Yeah. It's absolutely insane that's they just give you the board and go, hey man, have fun.
We saw people being helicoptered out of the side of the mountain, literally because it's people that have never snowboarded before, and then they just break their backs. It's
what?
So dangerous. Yeah. On the reform, can I link this back to the China story that kind of started to go full circle? I think if we're seeing all of this drama in Westminster about what the government did or didn't do to appease or not appease China, and then you have a party incoming Reform, who we just saw have ties of some former members, to Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And then also we know that Nigel Farage has ties and has taken money from quite shady US organisations that are anti-climate, that are anti-abortion. And that
I hope you're sure of that. That's a huge allegation.
I am sure of that. It has been reported before, or should I say allegedly, just to keep us safe.
Thank you.
Allegedly. And then that party has to field to more than 650 candidates, 200 MPs say get in, and they're all never having been MPs before, we'd assume some might be ex-Conservatives, but they won't have gone through the vetting that established parties put their candidates through. We already know they've had massive issues with vetting previously, and it makes you think, well, who will have those MPs' ears?
We were in Chelmsford. This is the last thing we'll say. We're going to leave you alone in a minute. But we were in Chelmsford, and she taps me on the shoulder and she goes, "I think that guy sitting over there was like pro-Nazi." She Googles it, and he was.
He's also now their head of vetting.
What?
No.
Yeah.
You're joking.
Not just he's a Nazi sympathiser, pro-Nazi.
Sorry, maybe we should clear up. He's not. Well, he would deny he's a Nazi sympathiser. I think he said Hitler did some great things.
Which is never great, is it? It's never good when you're like at a party and like, man, but some of this, and you're like, what? Yeah, but what about the bad?
Yeah.
He's not, no one's like, hey man, but the recycling was taken twice a week.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's the, the whole war and like evil extermination, like, and just being generally like one of the worst people who's ever lived. Like, you should never go, there's two sides to
Well, I think it's an argument you make about Tony Blair, right? Because you say, like, it's a shame about the Iraq war and the invasion because the Sure Start programs and the breakfast programs and all of these other things were actually really good. Do you know what I mean? Like what he actually, he was actually striving towards a meritocracy. Iraq was bad. You don't really look at like Hitler and say he did bring hyperinflation. It's not really Anyway, okay, well, thank you for watching if we have been live. If not, this has been a pre-record. Elliot, where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram at Elliot Steel. I don't know if I will be allowed back on the show, but I've had a lot of fun.
We loved having you. Are you going on tour?
Yeah, I'm currently on tour. London sold out, Bristol nearly sold out, Southampton, there's a lot of room. But yeah, so I'm on tour, so tickets are on my Instagram or through my link tree. Thank you.
Nice. Bye. Cool. Thank you.
Probably shouldn't have told that story.
Which one?
About the university and the whole death to